Hey there, everybody. Welcome back with the Plat. Purplatypus is the name, and welcome to another YouTube video. Today, I'm going to be talking about my current favorite game that I'm playing right now, and that is Chrono Ark. Now, I'll admit, this art style right here doesn't make it look that impressive, and we're going to talk about the positives and the negatives, but I kind of want to show you guys why I love this game so much and why I've been playing it so much. So, Chrono Ark is a roguelike. Roguelite. I don't know the difference in the definition, if I'm being honest for you. But like if you've played games like Hades, Rogue Legacy, Binding of Isaac, FTL, you know, things that are run based. You go on a run that's an hour-ish, you know, maybe a little longer, maybe a little less, and then you get stronger, and then you lose or you win and you reset and you get some meta progression and you just kind of keep doing runs. That's what this game is. Now, this game is very interesting in a lot of ways because it's closer to Hades in the sense that it's very story driven. So this whole world is contextualized in a story, and as you play more, you're going to unlock more of the story and get lots of extra stuff to do. But it is not an action game like a lot of these have been now. This is a turn-based, it's like Slay the Spire essentially, but use a party of 2, 3, and then 4 characters. You start with 2, you recruit a third, you recruit a fourth. These characters each have their own deck that you can get cards from, and then basically you have all their cards get shuffled into a big deck, and then you draw from that deck. And then so sometimes you might get a turn where you only have Joey cards, you might get a turn you only have Sizz cards, but usually you're going to be able to have some skills from each of the characters. So you're making like a communal deck that you draw from based off all your characters. So this game has a few negatives. Let's just get the negatives out of the way, because I think it's just such a good game in general. I want to get them out of the way. The initial art style, when you're looking into it, when you're like watching this, like it looks a little cheap. It looks a little indie. I don't think it's like really holding it back, but like I initially didn't want to play it because of the way this looks. I just don't like anime stuff in general. Like I like anime, but I'm not like really into anime, you know? But like once you get to the actual in combat and stuff, you can see these portraits are like, the art definitely takes a step up when you're like looking at this kind of stuff, when you're not walking around the map, when you're in combat, right? Also, you know, there are skins available. It's not my favorite thing. I'd put that as one of the negatives, right? Personally, I don't really like, this is not my thing. All right. And there's like skins. It's not that the negative that there's skins, but there's like a DLC that includes skins and some other cards or something. I don't have it. But so also another thing is the game can be very unintuitive, very difficult to like grasp and understand your first few times playing it. Not just because it's a different structure, but the UI and the translations can be a little iffy. It's not super clear when you read a card exactly what it's going to do. It's going to take a little bit of effort to kind of get into it. But once you're in and you start experimenting, you start understanding how things work, then it's going to come up, like you're going to understand it. And then really that's when you're going to get into the game, right? Lots of characters, all these characters have a unique deck. And they'll all synergize, and they have a passive, and they will synergize with other characters in an interesting way. Let's just take like a pretty basic combo. We'll take an attack character. Sorry. I'll be waiting at the Ark this time. He doesn't want to go with us. I don't think that that's normal. That's something someone can do. I think he is a story reason that he's not going right now. So I don't know. Let's take this boy, and let's take this boy. Just something, an attack character and a defense character. And so you're going to go around levels, and you're going to do fights, and you're going to basically try to get to the end. The game has got a great level of difficulty, and there's a lot of interacting parts, so it can actually, you know, it's hard to consider everything. It's easy to make mistakes. So you're going to go around, you're going to get resources, yada, yada. But really, like, I want to get to, like, the first boss fight. So just give me a second here, and I'll kind of tell you how combat works. All right, so let's kind of give you an idea of how combat works here. So you see there's like a lot going on visually on the screen at a time. And that's something that does take a little bit getting used to, right? If we look at the top left here, this is just our inventory. You have access to these items. You can only use a certain amount of potions, by default 3, when you start, you know, in a combat, during combat. Items that are consumables you could use all the time. All right, at the top here, this is the turn, and this is basically at turn 6 there's like an FTL kind of system here, right? If you just sit in a battle too long, you'll get basically the fog is going to catch up with you, and then you're going to start taking lots of damage. Enemies are going to get faster, stronger, yada yada blah blah, right? So this is so you can't just sit here and fully heal, you know, in between every fight. And so sometimes there'll be stuff up here, but not yet. So we could obviously end turn. This is standby. So enemies have basically, you can't see their intentions. That's an important aspect of the game. There's a character that can let you see their intentions, but you can't see them here. What you do know is that, you know, once you play the game enough, I already know this guy is going to do a heavy bite on one character. And then with the second action, he's going to do a really light attack for 1 or 2 damage on all characters. So I already know this guy's pattern, but it could be harder to learn patterns as they get more complex. But this character is going to do 2 actions this turn, right? He's going to do one after I cast one non-swift spell. Every time you cast a non-swift spell, the timers tick down. So basically, if something has a blue icon here, it's considered swift. So I can cast Intimidation and I can cast Weakening Smog, and this isn't going to go down. But if I use either the end of the line or the basic heal with a purple thing, it's going to cause this to tick down. So I'll get to use this, and then a heal immediately go after that and attack someone. So there is like a bit of sometimes you could do things quickly and turns won't go down. Other times you really want to use a card, but you don't want them to attack. Standby allows you to just kind of wait and not do anything and make their turn tick down. This is especially useful if only thing you have left is you want to heal, but you want them to attack first because everyone's at full HP. So I can like wait here. He's going to heal him, right? Boom. And now I could use my basic heal to heal him, right? So even like not doing anything and letting them advance is something that could be good. Exchange, very important. It'll let you take a card, throw it away, and draw a new one. There's a lot of synergies with all these mechanics as well, with different characters will interact with these things in different ways. You've got down here on the bottom, you've got your characters, and these are their innate skills, right? You could use one of these a turn, and whatever's here, it's basically a card from your deck that you put here. It increases the cost by 1, but in exchange, you could use it every other turn, basically. You could use 1 innate skill a turn, and every time a character uses it, it goes on a turn cooldown. So, you know, you can't use it every turn in a row, but you could use it every other turn, basically. And so that's the basics of combat. It's not that complex when you start playing it and understanding it, but where this game shines is the characters are incredibly diverse, incredibly interesting. There's a lot of good characters you could play that play very different with super different decks. Some are very complex characters that you need to set up things in a very weird way. Some are just overtly powerful, dealing a lot of damage. Some are synergized with playing lots of cards. Some are synergized by trying to parry enemies. So you set up cards and then you stand by so that when they attack you, you counter attack them and deal them extra damage. Some of them are set up on discarding cards. Some of them are set up on exchanging cards. Some of them are set up on copying other allies' abilities. There's a lot of characters that do a lot of different things, and they're very fun to learn how to play and see how they synergize with each other. Besides that, the enemies in this game, this is a bad example. This is the very first boss. He's got an incredibly simple pattern. But the bosses, the enemies, are very interesting. I mean, I keep running across new bosses. I've seen probably most of them by now, but not all of them. I'm 40 hours into this game. 40 hours. I'm only like 3 hours into Hades 2 because I keep playing this instead. And so the enemies, there's so many enemies that are so interesting, and that you have to do these interesting, you can't ignore their mechanics. You can't just brute force their mechanics. You could try, and in maybe some cases you can, but for the most part, if you try to brute force a mechanic, you're gonna get destroyed quickly. This game has a very interesting healing system, you know, kind of a Bloodborne where you lose HP, but you can re-heal that. But if, you know, you'll get a green bar basically, like you can see down here. But if I get hit again, I'm going to lose the green bar. So you have a chance to heal up there. And when you lose the green bar, you can still heal above it, but you heal at like 20% efficiency above it. So you almost don't get a heal at it, over it at all. It's very difficult. But it means that you can actually go like negative 20 HP. Your character will never die in a hit. You go to death's door, And then on Death's Door, every hit of damage, you know, Darkest Dungeon style, has a chance to kill you, a very high chance, like 90% something. So it's not like Darkest Dungeon where you're expected to kind of be there a lot. But you don't, if you're at 21 HP and I get hit for 70, I just go to -40, right? Like -50, I just go to -50. And if I get hit while in Death's Door, you know, between negative and 0, then I'll probably die. But if you could heal up that 50 and you get up to 1 more HP, you get off Death's Door. And again, you could tank any hit. So there's a lot of like interesting mechanics and how they actually work, because enemies are strong. This game is pretty difficult. And I haven't even gotten into the fact where if we go in here, right? So as you do things, you're going to get experience. Lucy is like your commander. That's us. We're Lucy. You can increase the maximum mana per turn. You can add extra card draw things to your deck. Then you can choose which characters to level up. As they level up, they get new skills. As you go through the game, you can equip them different items. You get relics that will, you know, very similar to Slay the Spire, but you can only have like 4 or 5 of them at a time, and they'll have pretty run-altering effects. The equipment goes from common up to legendary with either insanely build-defining effects to just being literal little stat increases on the low end. And then besides that, you also have all types of game modes. You can do special, if you've played Dungeon of the Endless. I know I'm comparing to a lot of games, so this game has taken a lot of good things from a lot of games. Dungeon of the Endless, you could choose to start runs with completely different restrictions. There's a game mode here where instead of getting 4 characters, you can only get 2, but each of them has more cards in their deck, so you don't have a thinner deck, and they're immune to like CC. So you get some buffs and you get some weaknesses, and then there's a system where after you defeat bosses, you could choose to increase the difficulty to get it harder and harder. And then there's tons of unlocks. There's a relationship system, a rapport system, where you build a relationship with these characters. And as it gets high enough, you're going to, they're basically going to be able to start with a bigger selection of skills when you first level them up. And on the other hand, like there's a way to get them super high up. And there's an end game to the story too. Even though you're playing it and having a good time with really difficult bosses and a really fun building, there's also a overarching story that's been incredibly interesting and engaging. Overall, this is some of the most fun I've had playing a video game in a long time, if I'm being completely honest with you. I mean, I've had a lot of fun with a lot of games in the last year, right? I had a lot of fun with Unicorn Overlord. I had a lot of fun with, Yakuza and Like a Dragon, tons of games that I've played in the last year that I've had a lot of fun with. This is some of the most fun I've had, just straight up. I think this game has been an incredibly fun experience. It is currently on Steam. So let's take a look. I have 39 hours in this game right now, and they just passed 300,000 copies sold. It came out May 2nd, and it's currently on Steam, 25% off for $18.74. I'm gonna play this game so much more. I want to get to the story. This might be like a 90-hour game to beat the story. It depends on how good you are. I'm not that good, but I do have a lot of experience in these types of games, so I'm not like a Slay the Spire professional. But I'm probably better than the average person as well, because I've invested a lot of time. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of geek out about one of my favorite games right now. Let's defeat a boss. If this is all you wanted to see, then let's give an example of an actual fight. So I want to give this. So like, again, these skills could be kind of difficult to read at first. There's a lot of information per card, right? It's not like Strike. Strike deals 5 damage, This deals 5 damage, which is low, but it hits all enemies. It has a 105 accuracy and a 1% crit chance. If you hover over an enemy, you'll see in the top right above me here, you'll actually see, all right, what's the chance of hitting? You're going to deal 5 damage. This is giving you the actual amount you're going to deal, which I didn't know about for a long time. And it has a hit rate and then the crit rate. So, but also there is the secondary effect. It has a 118% chance to inflict fear on enemies, which gives them negative 10% armor, which will just increase our damage by 10%, negative 10% evade, so we're more likely to hit them, and negative 1 speed, so it's gonna take them longer to do their action. So basically it's gonna make this slower. It might give us more standby, but I think it makes their thing slower here. 9+ means also it's always gonna say 9+. It's not gonna go off until we end our turn, so we can't respond to it this turn. But if we do intimidation, it'll also make them 15% more likely to crit. So we did land our fear. He's got that debuff on him now. 5 damage is pretty low. But let's go ahead and give him Weakening Smog. Let's get rid of End of the Line. That's better when he's at 50%. So we don't have that good of a turn right now. But I am going to do Weakening Smog. That one basically gives him a debuff over turn, a little bit of damage, and then it's going to deal an extra 12 damage over a couple turns. And now we can see he's got negative 10% armor, negative 10% evade. So I'm not going to worry about using this. I could use it, but here's a strategy thing. Even though I have enough, you only draw 2 cards a turn. So when you only draw 2 cards a turn, you kind of want to, the cards that you may not want to use, you're going to hold on to, because now we can exchange this for maybe a better card, which we did. But I'll probably exchange that in the next turn anyway. So it doesn't look like he actually got slowed. I wonder if slow doesn't affect bosses. I haven't used this character a lot, if I'm being honest. So another thing you could do is you could use these if you want to save cards in your hand. But this is early enough where I'm not too worried about it. I'm just going to attack him. He's going to attack. And here we heal a lot in between boss fights, or after a boss fight. So I'm not too concerned with my HP going down at this point. Bloodstorm deals 20 damage, sorry, 21 damage. Deal 20 damage, which is equal to 70% of our max HP plus 50% of our lost health. And if you defeat an enemy with it, it will help us out here. So let's go ahead and exchange this. Let's do the, if we do this, so this is another thing. This is kind of an interesting mechanic here. If you play a purple card, it makes all of your other purple cards cost more for the rest of that turn. So like if I play a 2 cost purple, you know, this is a card, it just, we have access to it all the time because it's in our, you know, passive skill. Basically it'll make all of these other purple ones more expensive for the same character. So this will bring his other one up to 3. But if you play blue cards, these do not make the other characters effects faster. So I am unable to play Bloodstorm and basic attack in the same turn. However, Accelerate will allow me to reduce the cost of a skill by 1 and grant it swiftness. So this is actually going to be an interesting double discount. So I'll show you here. So we're going to attack with basic attack. And he's going to attack our boy. He's on death's door. We're literally not worried about it at all. So you can see this costs 3. But this is going to convert this. This is going to make it cost 1, make it go down to 2. But it's also going to convert it from purple into blue. And so the initial cost at blue, if it's purple, it's normally at 2. But when you convert it to blue, it's still going to be at 2, but it's going to go down to 1 because it's giving -1 to the initial blue cost. So it's actually going to give you a 2 discount. It's going to go down to 1. And like, that's a kind of interaction that's not necessarily complex, but you're going to pick up a lot of those types of things as you play the game a lot. There's a lot of very interesting and good mechanics. And we also missed our attack. All right, so there he goes. He is going to kill our boy now. And I won't lie, that is lame, but he will revive at the start of the next fight. So we're not too concerned about it. Yeah, it was the first boss, okay? It's not my fault. I'm supposed to lose on the very first boss, lose a character. So you get a bunch of items. These items are varied in what they do, right? This is a rapport item. You're going to get a random one here. You're going to get skill books. You could choose. These are generic skills. Let's say I don't want to use them. Gives someone a rare skill. This is like the best thing. Create a 2-cost swiftness skill with your effects. This is like that Hearthstone card where you play this. This is swift, and then you get to pick 2 different things, and then it's gonna give you a 2-cost swift effect on a card. It could do like 32 damage or something. It could do all kinds of different things. It could heal. It could debuff. It could, you know, it could remove your debuffs. It could just deal straight damage. You can make it free and then an AoE over time heal. Or we could choose rage. Recast the next skill played from hand and take damage. Pain damage is different than normal damage. It'll never lower your... You could die from it, but it won't lower your green bar when you take pain damage. It doesn't count as physical damage. Equal to 25% of your max health. Only activates for skills that are 2 cost or lower. So what's interesting here is this makes all allies have rage. This is incredibly powerful, but it's risky. So whenever you play a skill, each ally, the next time they play a skill, they are going to cast that skill twice, and they're going to take 25% of their max health as damage. So the ideal way you would play this, you'd play this, and then each of your characters would play a 2-cost skill, and you would actually get each of those 2-cost skills twice, but they'll lose HP equal to their max health. So it's really good if you have this, and then you have your healer cast, and you have another character do a damage attack, you have him do a damage attack, and then you have your third character or whatever do a heal, and then everyone's back up to full, right? This is a really powerful way to use it. It is a risky, high risk, high reward. I like the flexibility of create a potion. It's just always super, super good. But after you defeat a boss, you're going to go to a campfire. You can see this is where you're going to put those relics. We got a relic pouch, so we can open this and see what we got. These are all like pretty decent, having a bunch of exchange unless you get a perfect opening hand. I like this one right now. It gives you, whenever an enemy taunts, which is common, a lot of enemies will have taunt, it automatically lowers their armor by 10%, and it's unresistible. They just have that as part. Taunts now give you negative 10% armor on enemies. And then when you get to the first campfire, you get to recruit a new character, right? So you get a pool of 4 characters you get to choose from the pool you have unlocked. And I think they usually try to give you something you don't have, right? So I have a support, I have an attacker, so they're going to give me at least 1 tank. And whoever it is, you could pick. Well, this guy is the one that lets you see enemies' initiatives. He kind of messes around with initiatives, which is a really fun mechanic as well. This is the Blood Mist mechanic. Blacksmith allows you to take equipment. We didn't find any on the first run, and you get to combine them and then make different equipment out of a big pool of equipment, things like that. And then you can see Joey revived because we got here. We also have an item that lets us revive him. We could also use, different items like a healing potion. Be like, all right, here you go, Joey. Something like that. So there's a lot of really fun, interesting mechanics. And I'm kind of done talking about it, but I fucking love this game. I've been having so much fun with it. I highly recommend you check it out. If you're into turn-based and you're into roguelikes, this is pretty much one of the best out there. I'll admit the anime stuff, visual style isn't for everyone. It's not for me. But kind of like Battle Brothers, I'm going to reference every game in existence here. Or even Slay the Spire might be better, where visually I wasn't impressed by it. Turns out to be one of the greatest games. Also, the soundtrack on the later bosses kicks ass. They've got some fucking banger music in this. Really sets the mood. I don't normally notice music. Like, I couldn't tell you a single song in Eiyuden Chronicles. I'm sure there's lots of good music there, but none of it really stood out to me as impactful. This game has got some impactful music. Not Octopath Traveler level, but like, it's at least in the same conversation. Anyway, that's all for today, guys. Thank you very much for Platypuses for Plat-a-pus. I'll see you on the flip-flops. Bye!